Part 24. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 231. Chapter 231 Chapter 231 She didn't dare. The old man didn't know when he stood behind them. He was blushing and tapping the ground with his cane. He pointed at Fujinexiu and almost didn't make a move. I don't know what you are thinking. You have no chance of being escorted when you are young if you don't let her go. What do you want to do, I ask you? Fujinexiu frowned, his thin lips pressed into a straight line, and he said the same thing, you are not allowed to go. Go, Xiao Xiao, Grandpa supports you. Don't miss such a good opportunity. Get this spot and let Grandpa have glory in his face. The old man had the right to support Zhang Xiao, so she was the one to go. Zhang Xiao took the first step with the support of the old man, and the next second he was fixed by the big man's voice. Zhang Xiao, if you dare to leave, believe it or not, even if you get the recommended spot, no school will dare to ask you. Fujinexiu's cold voice had a venomous tone deep in it. Child, go and pass the exam. Grandpa will find a way for you to pass the exam, the old man said in a strong tone. Just like that, the two father and son were at odds with each other. No one gave in, and their tempers were exactly the same. This made Zhang Xiao, who was caught in the middle, afraid to move at all. The atmosphere in the hall was depressing. The servants stayed far away and no one dared to come close. Wen Yueru saw the scene when he came to the hall. He asked the housekeeper next to him and got some general information. He walked up to Zhang Xiaoxi and said to Zhang Xiao, go to school quickly. Your studies are important. Zhang Xiao looked at the person who suddenly appeared in the hall, her delicate brows furrowed, and she was thinking about what she was doing, and she was looking for the boss again. Child, you go quickly, Grandpa believes you can get this quota. When the old man saw someone coming to help him, he straightened up a lot. Zhang Xiao looked at Wen Yueru and then at Fujinexiu. She suddenly didn't want to go to school and didn't move. She now hoped that the boss would say not to go, so that she could find an excuse not to go. I'll ask the driver to take you there. The boss's words shook Zhang Xiaoxi's thoughts to pieces. The boss's position was too unstable. It wasn't that he refused to let her go. But as soon as Wen Yueru came, he changed his words. Zhang Xiao walked out with a small face on his arm, dragging the suitcase at his feet. Going was the wisest decision. If you promised not to disturb the plot, don't disturb the plot. Fujinexiu stared deeply at the leaving figure, with a cold face, and said to Wen Yueru, come to the study with me. Good. The old man knew that they were talking about business, so he went for a walk in the garden. Study. Wen Yueru was not in a hurry to discuss business matters, but looked like a gossip. Senior, are you ready to cut off your child's future? Facing her teasing, Fujinexiu's face didn't change much. He just said calmly, the property I gave her will protect her from spending it as she pleases for several lifetimes. Wen Yueru. Such confident words make people grit their teeth and hate them. Senior, your words like this will make me think that your PhD diploma is fake, your spirit is empty, and having no faith is more terrible than having no money. Fujinexiu raised his eyebrows and stared at her. All I want is for her to be by my side. If she wants to study in college, I can teach her at home. Senior, are you afraid that your child will be poached by other young brats? Wen Yueru said tentatively. Unexpectedly, someone's expression changed so much, and his eyes became sharp. She didn't dare. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 232. Chapter 232 Chapter 232 I understand everything. Wen Yueru pursed her lips and suppressed a smile. Thinking about how someone who was so popular in the university was now afraid of being poached, she was really lucky to see it. He couldn't help teasing someone. Senior, how do you know she doesn't dare? Today's young people are so handsome that they might fall in love with someone. Fujinek Sayajun's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, and his tone was cold. You are very idle. Senior Buletincien, let's talk about the overseas project. After all, I also invested in it, and it's hard for me to explain the losses to my brother because of the huge losses. When Yuru looked at Fujinek Sayu flatteringly. If someone is angry, then her loss will really be irreversible. People still have to give up for 5 buckets of rice. School. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at Chu Hanyu and Yu Yang, who appeared in their class that was said to have a recommended quota, and the corner of his mouth twitched a few times. Xiaoxi, I thought you weren't coming. Chu Hanyu approached Zhang Xi. Zhang Xiao looked at her confused. Why did she think she wouldn't come? Chu Hanyu was like a round worm in her belly. She knew what she was thinking. He winked at her and said, when I was young, didn't Uncle Fu come back? I thought you wouldn't come today. Zhang Xiaoxiao. Why can't she participate in this competition when the boss comes back? Chu Hanyu smiled brightly and pointed at her neck. When I was little, I understood everything. Zhang Xiao's fair cheeks turned red on the spot. This woman was really observant. She could even see the high-collared clothes she was wearing. She didn't need to think about it, but she knew what she was thinking about, even though she had indeed done something. But it still feels hard to see people. Child, you don't have to be shy. I understand that people like Uncle Wu must be very strong. Chu Hanyu said, gossiping. Zhang Xiaoxiao. Can she ignore this woman? Some students, who clearly do not have the strength, rely on family connections to get in, so please consciously not disturb other students' lectures. The teacher's insinuation made Chu Hanyu become more honest immediately. Xiao, we are chatting after class. Chu Hanyu whispered to Zhang Xiao. Zhang Xiao. She didn't want to talk about these topics. Students, listen carefully to the lecture. This is a place recommended to the mathematics department of Ruda. The teacher focused on Zhang Xiao, obviously thinking that she was the most promising. Zhang Xiao had no interest in this class at first. She wanted to go to Ruda to study forensic science, so the teacher was probably going to be disappointed. Although he was not very interested, Zhang Xiao still listened carefully to the lecture. This was a matter of attitude. Chu Hanyu finally held it in after class, so he took Zhang Xiaoxi to the school milk tea shop, ordered a cup of milk tea, and continued his morning topic. Uncle Fu Wu, aren't you very powerful? Zhang Xiao. She really admired her persistence, and she still thinks about it to this day. I refuse to answer. If you really want to know, you can ask Uncle An to try it out. Zhang Xiaoxi answered her without even raising his eyelids. As soon as An Nangsuan was mentioned, Chu Hanyu hesitated and changed the subject himself. When I was young, are you going to the Department of Mathematics at Ruda? I won't go, Zhang Xiao replied firmly. Why? Chu Hanyu couldn't understand. Her grades were so good. How many people dreamed of going to the mathematics department of Ruda? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 233. Chapter 233. Chapter 233. I have diarrhea. Zhang Xiaoxiao answered her calmly, I want to study forensic medicine. Forensic medicine department. Chu Hanyu was so frightened that she almost spat out the milk tea in her mouth. Forensic medicine department, the first thing that popped into her mind was the corpses. It was a bit scary and she was a little scared. When I was young, Uncle Fu Wu agreed that you should study. Agree. Agree. Chu Hanyu's understanding of Fujianexai was refreshed again. Uncle Fu Wu actually didn't object to Zhang Xiaoxiu. Oh my god, why did she not believe it so much? Xiao Xiao, are you sure it's not Uncle Fu who was obsessed with you and lost his mind? That's when I said. Zhang Xiao. How does she feel? With this description, she is a confused Jun's Hang Daji. You think too much. Chu Hanyu said in his dear eyes, I don't believe what you said. When you were little, did you take any precautions when you were having trouble with Uncle Fu Wu? The corners of Zhang Xiaoxiu's mouth stiffened when he was drinking milk tea. He suddenly stood up and walked out, his steps a little flustered. Xiao Xiao, where are you going? Chu Hanyu quickly followed her footsteps. Chu Hanyu's words reminded Zhang that she had had several close relationships with the boss when she was young. Previously, she was lucky and did not win the prize. This time, what should she do if she wins the prize? Just thinking about this, Zhang Xiao couldn't help but speed up her pace. She walked straight out of the school gate, but the man at the door stopped her. Classmate, you have to go out and bring me your leave application note. No, I don't have a leave note. Zhang Shi was breathing a little quickly because he was walking very fast. The uncle is very serious and responsible. Classmate, you go back to the teacher to write a request for leave. I can't let you out. If anything happens to you, I am responsible. Uncle, I'm going to the nearby drugstore to buy some medicine. I have diarrhea and will be back soon. You can see me at a glance, so just let me go. Zhang Xiaoxiao was really in a hurry. Classmate, you have diarrhea. I happen to have some medicine for diarrhea here. Just wait for me to get it for you. The uncle locked the door and enthusiastically went to get the medicine for you and her. Zhang Shi. Child, why are you running so fast? What happened? Chu Han panted next to her. I'm going to buy medicine. What medicine should I buy? Chu Hanyu was confused and could not react. The uncle came out with the medicine and said, Girl, this is effective in treating diarrhea. Just take one pill and it will be fine. Don't take too much. When I was young, you had diarrhea. You told me earlier. I also have medicine there. I'm going to stay at the school for 2 days. My mother prepared all the medicine for me. Zhang Shi. Uncle, we don't want the medicine anymore, thank you. Chu Hanyu took Zhang Xiaoxi and walked back. Hanyu, I don't have diarrhea, I just want to buy anti-nausea medicine, Zhang Xiao whispered in her ear. Chu Hanyu was stunned for a moment, and then he reacted, when I was young, you had. No, but Uncle Wu and I, last night. Zhang Xiao didn't need to finish what he said, Chu Hanyu also understood. Chu Hanyu was stunned for a while before he recovered and comforted Zhang Xiao, Xiao Xiao, don't be anxious. There are such easy things to win. Calculate whether you are in the safe period. It's best not to eat that stuff. It's not good. Zhang Xiao recalled that he had just passed his menstrual period, which was within the safe period. His nerves relaxed immediately, and only after he relaxed did he remember that he was still a doctor. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 234. Chapter 234. Chapter 234. How about we pretend to be real? A mocking smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, mocking himself for being so flustered just now. Xiao Xiao, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. Chu Hanyu looked at her smile and was frightened. Nothing, let's go back to class. Zhang Xiaoxi pulled Chu Hanyu forward. Chu Hanyu felt that she was too abnormal, and felt worried in her heart. Xiao Xiao, are you really okay? Fine. Child, don't worry too much. Even if you are pregnant, it will be fine. Uncle Fu will definitely be responsible. He loves you so much. Chu Hanyu didn't know what to say. Zhang Xiaoxiao thought that before she left, the boss had agreed to her coming to the school because of Wen Yueru's words, and her heart felt sour. She couldn't interfere with the development of the book, no. Child, why are you crying? Chu Hanyu anxiously wiped the tears on her face. Zhang Xiaoxiao touched the corners of her eyes with her hands, and they were wet. She cried. She felt uncomfortable thinking about when you were being with the boss, and she couldn't accept it. Fu family. When you were stretched and moved his neck. He glanced sideways at someone who had not changed his posture. He couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, a man who works hard is really handsome. He joked, "Senior, how about we fake it, it's really a show." Fujinexi's hand holding the pen did not pause. "Your man is already on his way back." When Yoru sat up straight and stared at Fujinexiu, "Senior, are you kidding?" Fujinexiu raised his eyebrows slightly and stared at her. "It's too late for you to go back now. People will come here to kidnap someone in the evening." Ah! When Yoru stood up loudly, pointed at Fujinexiu, and said angrily, "Senior, you are not kind, you are only telling me now. He will arrive in about half an hour, you still have time." Fujinexiu looked at the watch in his hand calmly. "You." When Yoru stopped fussing with him, took off his high heels and ran downstairs. Ah! When Yoru was running very fast and happened to collide with Zhang Xiaoxiao, who was returning home. Zhang Xiaoxiao was knocked into the escalator. "Xiaoxiao, I'm sorry, I have something to do now, I'll treat you to dinner another day." When Yoru ran as fast as a gust of wind. Zhang Xiao looked at her messy hair and bare feet, and her heart kept sinking. Countless scenes of when Yoru and the big boss appeared in his mind. His original desire to go upstairs was gone in an instant, and he restrained himself. Eyes, turned around and walked out. "Little miss, why are you back?" Butler Zhu held the chessboard in his hand and looked like he was going to play chess with the old man. "I'm coming back to get something, and I'm going back to school soon," Zhang Xiao replied with an unnatural expression. "If you need anything, just call home and I'll deliver it to you," Butler Zhu said. Zhang Xiaoxiao smiled lightly and said, "Same, I'm going back soon." "You go play chess with Grandpa." "Okay, I'll ask the driver to take you back to school." "Need not. I'll take you back." A familiar sound cannot be heard when a familiar voice reaches my ears. Zhang Xiaoxi looked back with a stiff expression. The man was tall and straight, with deep and three-dimensional facial features. However, his eyebrows were lowered and his face did not look good. His eyes were staring at Zhang Xiaoxi quietly. "Fifth uncle." Zhang Xiao called out dryly. The man stepped forward with his long straight legs and approached her step by step. "I'll take you back to school." "Need not." End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 235. Chapter 235. Chapter 235. I'm almost driven crazy by her. In the car. Fujinexiu drove the car without saying a word. Zhang Xiaoxiao was sitting next to him, holding the seat belt with his little hands, pursed his lips, and did not dare to speak. Squeaking, the car stopped moving, and Fujinexiu's handsome face was enlarged in Zhang Xiaoxi's pupils. Zhang Xiao's whole body tensed up nervously, and he tremblingly said, "Uncle Wu." Fujinexiu's dark eyes were darkened, and his voice was cold, "Tell me the reason." "What's the reason?" Zhang Xiao shrank his neck back and kept a distance from the boss. "My attitude changed so quickly this morning, tell me why." The boss got a little closer to her, his eyes threatening. Zhang had his head pressed against the car glass when he was young, his eyes lowered, not daring to look at the boss. "I didn't." "Ah dash. No, Zhang Xiaoxiao, I raised you with my own hands. I can't even see your emotional changes. Do you think I raised you for nothing for so many years?" Fujinexiu gritted his teeth and wanted to kill some heartless person. Zhang Xiao bit her lip and said nothing. She thought she had performed well in the morning, but she didn't expect that the boss would hear her out. Now silence is the best choice. Fujinexiu narrowed his eyes, pinched her small chin with his hard fingers, and grinned at his teeth. "Speak." Zhang Xiao stubbornly turned his eyes to the side, enduring the pain in his jaw, but refused to admit it. "I didn't." I haven't said a word yet, Zhang Xiao, you are forcing me. Zhang Xiaoxiao's body trembled, and it hurt as if the boss was going to crush her jawbone. I'm giving you a chance, do you want to say it or not? Fu Chenxiao stared at her fiercely. Zhang Xiao's face was deformed in pain. Knowing that silence was not the answer, he gritted his teeth and said, "Didn't you say you would give me some time? So, you have figured it out." Fu Chenxiao stared at her with squinted eyes. "Yes, I want to understand, do you want me to tell you?" Zhang Xiaoxiao stared at him with dark eyes. Fu Chenxiao squinted his eyes and looked at her dark pupils. At a certain moment, he suddenly felt a little scared and didn't want to hear what she said. He was afraid that it was not the answer he wanted to hear. "Do you want me to say it?" Zhang Xiao repeated what he just said. Fu Chenxiao became cowardly and let go of Zhang Shishi. He said in a strong tone, "Get out of the car." "Zhang Shi, get out of the car." Fu Chenxiao opened the car door this time and unfastened the safety belt for her. Zhang Xiaoxiao glanced at Fu Chenxiao, pursed his lips, and finally got out of the car without saying anything. As soon as she stood firm, the car started and disappeared in front of her. Zhang Xiaoxiao's tears flowed down uncontrollably, and he said to the air, "My answer is, yes, I like you, but I don't dare to say it to you, I will only keep it in my heart." It's just that Fu Chenxiao couldn't hear these words. Northern Dynasties. Fu Chenxiao swam in the swimming pool for an unknown number of times, and finally sank completely to the bottom of the pool. This frightened Zhao Huiyan on the shore and tightened her nerves. "Boss, you were disobedient when you were young." The water surface opened, and the man's handsome face emerged from the water. His hair, wet by the water, stuck to his forehead, revealing an evil beauty. "Boss, that girl had feelings for you when she was young, so don't push her too hard." Zhao Huiyan's eyes fell on the nail marks on his shoulders. Fu Chenxiao pursed his lips and tightened his jawline, "I'm almost driven crazy by her." Zhao Huiyan can be seen. "Boss, you will understand in retrospect." Zhao Huiyan could only say this. The tempers of the two people were exactly the same. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 236. Chapter 236. Chapter 236. You are too strong. Fu Chenxiao stood up from the water with a splash, went directly to the bar, poured a glass of red wine, and drank it. She thought it through clearly, but I didn't dare to listen to her answer. Zhao Huiyan. He now knows the reason. There are other things that Fu Chenxiao didn't dare to listen to, and he was also afraid that Zhang Xiaoxiao would be the only one. "Boss, why don't you listen to my answer?" Zhao Huiyan looked at someone with a bad expression on her face. Fu Chenxiao frowned slightly, and pressed his thin lips into a straight line. After a long silence, he spoke in a very soft voice, "I can see her answer." Zhao Huiyan. "Boss, you are not a child, how do you know what she is thinking? Even if she rejects you, you must listen to her personally, because even if she says it, you will not let her go, right?" Fu Chenxiao bit his cheek and put his tongue against his teeth. Zhao Huiyan was right. No matter what she answered, he would not let her go. However, the funny thing is that he is actually afraid of hearing her rejection. He hopes that there is feelings between them, instead of him blindly forcing her and pressing her step by step. He thinks she has feelings for him, otherwise, where would the series of changes begin? "Boss, you are too impatient. She was still young when she was young, and you are so much older than her. You should keep calm no matter what. She couldn't run away when she was young, and she couldn't escape your position. You raised her, and you know her character best. If the little girl is the kind of person who has no feelings for you, she would have already made trouble when you took possession of her. It would be easy for the little girl to really want to disappear. The old man and the others just didn't deliberately cover up her whereabouts last time. With the help of the boss, who has a lot of character from a little girl, you can't find anyone. Zhao Huiyan finished analyzing someone and looked at his face. Fu Chenxiao took a dull sip of wine and asked Zhao Huiyan in that uncertain language, "Are you sure you have feelings for me?" "Boss, I'm sure that in the world of feelings, you can't be too strong. Being strong will only make me more afraid of you and not discover my feelings for you." Zhao Huiyan felt that it was too difficult for her. She couldn't protect herself, and she had to come here to comfort the injured man and act as an emotional counselor. Fu Chenxiao's eyelids were half draped, and his long black eyelashes were curled up, blocking his deep eyes, making it difficult to see the emotions in his eyes, as if he was deep in thought and silent for a long time. Zhao Huiyan looked at him, not in a hurry, and let him think slowly. As a bystander, he knew from the moment he knew about Fu Chenxiao's feelings for Zhang Xiaoxi that there would be a situation like this. Fu Chenxiao's possessiveness was too strong. Before Zhang Xiao discovered his feelings, he might have thought it was nothing, but this kind of possessiveness was not acceptable in feelings. About half an hour later, half of the bottle of red wine was empty, and Fu Chenxiao's deep voice said, "Send me back to the company." Zhao Huiyan, fortunately, he didn't drink, otherwise he would have been a drunk driver. Zhao Huiyan drove the car and looked at the man sitting in the passenger seat with his eyes closed, and couldn't help but sigh. Such a man who was born to be a king was still so humble in front of him emotionally. Hum. The sound of the phone vibrating made the man with his eyes open, his eyes expressionless, and he answered the phone. "Boss, come to the hospital and tell you something." End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 237. Chapter 237 Chapter 237 Dual Personality. Guanyang Office. Zhao Huiyan sat lazily on the sofa and joked, "Brother, there is no surgery today." Guanyang basically didn't even look at him. He handed his phone to Fu Chenxiao and said, "Boss, take a look." Fu Chenxiao squinted and looked at the video on his phone. The video showed Zhang Xiao rescuing the old man. He was there that day. "What do you want to say?" Before Guanyang said anything, Zhao Huiyan joined in the fun and said, "When I was little, my CPR skills were similar to those of Guanyang. My family was very good at it when I was little." Fu Chenxiao frowned deeply and looked at Guanyang with his dark eyes. Guanyang habitually pushed up his lenses with a serious expression. "Boss, I suspect that I have a dual personality when I was young. Last time in a car accident, I hypnotized her to test whether she had feelings for you, but she said a lot of things. Strange words. She said you liked the original hour." "Brother, are you sure?" Zhao Huiyan stared at Guanyang with a solemn expression. 50%, she needs to be hypnotized a second time. Maybe I can be sure Guanyang would not have jumped to a conclusion without hypnotizing Zhang Xiao a second time. He only suspected Zhang Xiao had a dual personality through two things, but he felt that it was not the case because dual personality would not appear all at once, but would usually only appear when he was stimulated. Zhang Xiao has been well protected by Fu Chenxiao since she was a child. It is impossible to derive the character of a doctor. She also said that she wanted to apply for the Department of Forensic Medicine. An extra personality may not have any impact on his life, but he needs to know that everything must be taken just in case. "Boss, there haven't been any obvious changes since childhood, only you know it best." Guanyang turned his eyes to Fu Chenxiao's face. Fu Chenxiao's face was flat and his expression didn't change at all. He answered calmly, "She doesn't have a dual personality. I'm sure you don't need to hypnotize her a second time." Fu Chenxiao's attitude made both Guanyang and Zhao Huiyan stunned, and they even said they couldn't believe it. Normally, even if Zhang Xiao had a slight cold, someone would be so nervous that he would eat someone. Now Guanyang suspects that Zhang Xiao has a dual personality. He is so calm, with no nervous expression on his face. It is completely unreasonable and weird. Fu Chenxiu didn't care what expressions the two people looked at him with, his attitude was rather tough. Don't hypnotize the child for a second time, she won't have a dual personality. As a doctor, Guanyang only believed in his own judgment about Zhang Shishi. He loved Zhang Shishi no less than Fu Chenxiu. Boss, let me check him once. It won't do any harm to Zhang Shishi. No need, Fu Chenxiu refused. Zhao Huiyan also loved Zhang Xiaoxiao, so she joined in the persuasion. Boss, it's better to let Guanyang check it, so that we can rest assured, right? She will be fine by my side, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't have a dual personality. I will observe it, and if there is any unusual behavior, I will bring it to light. After Fu Chenxiu finished speaking, he walked to the door. Zhao Huiyan and Guanyang looked at each other, and both of them frowned slightly. Fu Chenxiu was not the least bit abnormal, and they looked at each other. Zhao Huiyan caught up with Fu Chenxiu. Boss, I'll take you back. Guanyang's mobile phone received a text message from Zhao Huiyan. When I was young, I participated in a closed competition at school. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 238. Chapter 238. Chapter 238. We are sisters. Guanyang put his mobile phone on the table, took off his gold-rimmed glasses, and pinched his eyebrows tiredly. Zhao Huiyan asked him to go to the school to find Zhang Xiao right now to make sure. But Fu Chenxiu was so abnormal, but he had other ideas. Fu Chenxiu loves Zhang Xiao to the bone. He will never allow Zhang Xiao to be in any potential danger, such as the time when Zhang Xiao was allergic to sweet-scented Osman. Thus, now he finally has some clues. Zhang Xiao was kicked out of the car by the boss halfway. After walking for a while, he met Mo Zhangxiang and got into her car. 11. Do you want to go back to Nangzi courtyard? Mo Zhangxiang occasionally glanced at Zhang Shi, who was sitting in the co-pilot and was not in a high mood. I'm going back to school. Mo Zhangxiang looked ahead and drove the car seriously. At this point, are you going back to school? At school, there is a competition for admission to Ruda University, so I have to stay at the school for 2 days. Zhang Xiao answered truthfully, but looked at the dusk outside the car window. Before going back to school, are you free? I have something I want to talk to you about. Oh, Zhang Xiang asked Zhang Xiaoxi politely. Zhang Xiao turned his head and looked at Mo Zhangxiang motionlessly with his dark eyes. He was in a terrible mood. What did she want to talk about? Did she want to talk about her relationship with the boss? That's not necessary. After all, the boss belongs to her, because they are the hero and heroine of this book. Okay, Zhang Xiao didn't know that he had agreed so easily. Coffee shop. Zhang Xiao was drinking juice tastelessly in his mouth, staring at Mo Zhangxiang, and said, "What do you want to talk to me about?" Mo Zhangxiang took out a document from his briefcase and handed it to Zhang Xiaoxi. Look at this. Zhang Xiaoxiao took the document suspiciously. There was a DNA identification certificate written on the cover. Zhang Xiao pursed her lips but did not open them. Instead, she made up some ridiculous things in her mind. For example, Mo Zhangxiang had given birth to the boss's son. This was a paternity test that she wanted to hand over to the boss. Why don't you open it and take a look? Seeing that she hadn't moved, Mo Zhangxiang was a little anxious. Zhang Xiaoxiao retracted the plot in his mind, and awkwardly opened the DNA test book. When he saw the words on the first page, he quickly read the last page with his brows furrowed. His pupils shrank hard and he looked at Mo Zhangxiang blankly. This is... It's true, you were my sister when I was little. Mo Zhangxiang smiled, his eyes full of soft light. Zhang Xiaoxi was frightened by this big melon. Zhang Xiaoxi and Mo Zhangxiang are sisters, but it was not written in the book. Seeing that Zhang Xiaoxiao was stunned, Mo Zhangxiang smiled slightly and said, "Xiaoxiao, I was suspicious the first time I saw you, so I secretly got your hair and went to the hospital for an evaluation. That said, it turned out to be a while. But you said you don't have a sister." Zhang Xiao was still a little bit overwhelmed. Mo Zhangxiang took a sip of coffee, his eyes filled with the soft light of an older sister looking at her younger sister. "When I was young, there were some things that you didn't know about. It's okay that I didn't tell you to protect you. Then why are you saying it again now?" Zhang Xiaoxi simply didn't understand what she was doing. "I'm talking now because I want to get to know you." Zhang Xiaoxiao, so it all depends on this sister's mood whether she wants to get to know each other. Now that she is in a good mood, she just wants to get to know her. It's really incomprehensible. When you were young, did my sister scare you? Zhangxi. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 239. Chapter 239. Chapter 239. This plot. Xiao Xiao, are you finding it difficult to accept this? Mo Zhangxiang looked at Zhang Xiao nervously. Zhangxi, isn't a bit hard to accept? This melon is really a bit big. It won't be like the novels she read, with some plot, so I just thought about it and asked. It's not like our family was destroyed by some enemy. As soon as Zhang Xiaoxiao finished speaking, he saw Mo Jiangxiang's expression change, his eyes became much darker, and he was silent for a while. "Xiaoxiao, sister just wants you to be happy." "Zhang Xiaoxi, there's no need to guess now, it's really a plot, my God. Please come to God and save her. When I'm young, sister will take care of it and I'll make sure you won't be in danger." Mo Zhangxiang replied with a pale face. "The enemy of our family is not the Fu family, right?" Zhang Xiaoxi tried his best to think in a cruel way. Mo Zhangxiang shook his head repeatedly. No, our family's enemy is not the Fu family, and I should also thank the Fu family for being so kind to you." Zhang Xiaoxiao relaxed her tense nerves and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the boss was not an enemy of her family. Otherwise, she could basically guess the plot behind such a plot. "What's my name?" Zhang Xiaoxiao asked. Mo Jiangxiang's surname was Mo, so she should also be surnamed Mo. "Your name is Zhang Xiaoxiao, and your surname is after your mother's," Mo Zhangxiang replied. "Zhangxi. Is our family from Ruchin or somewhere else?" "Mo Zhangxiang, our hometown is in Rongcheng." "What are my parents' names? I have no memories before I was 8 years old," Zhang Xiaoxi explained. Mo Zhangxiang stirred the coffee spoon, with a sad mood hanging around him. "It's okay if you forget, it was a not so good memory. I will tell you the names of my parents later." "Zhang Xiao. I didn't tell her anything, she was also drunk." "Then how come you were auctioned?" Zhang Xiaoxiao continued to ask. Mo Zhangxiang still said, "I will tell you later." "Zhang Xiaoxiao. So why are you here to get to know her?" Mo Zhangxiang knew that if he didn't say anything, Zhang Xiaoxi would be unhappy, so he changed the topic. "Xiaoxiao, did you quarrel with the president?" "No," Zhangxi quickly denied. Mo Zhangxiang smiled lightly and said to himself, "When I was young, the president and I had nothing to do with each other. Don't pay attention to what the media wrote about us. The president loves you very much." "Zhangxi. Xiaoxiao, the president is a person worth trusting. No one in this world loves you more than her. I feel relieved that you can follow him." "Zhang Xiaoxiao, sister, you are the protagonist in the book. If you persuade me to be with the boss now, you will regret it. Let's go, I'll take you back to school. Mo Zhangxiang put the documents away. Zhang Xiao asked a question that he had boldly guessed. I was almost assassinated last time. Was it my enemies who did it? Mo Zhangxiang covered his eyes, pursed his thin lips, and only said, when you are young, follow the CEO, and the CEO will protect you. Zhang Xiao didn't accept her words this time. Nothing was more important than her own life. Now such a big danger was lurking around her. She had to ask clearly, I want to know. Can I not have a family feud, but will I be in danger and I need to know? End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 240. Chapter 240. Chapter 240. Secretary Mo, don't get excited. Mo Zhangxiang looked at Zhang Ziaxi with embarrassment, his face turned slightly pale. Xiao Xiao, please don't say hello. You will not be in danger by the president's side. Zhang Xiao really seemed to roll her eyes and told her not to ask anything. She didn't know anything, so how could she face the danger and rely on the big boss to protect her, if the big boss wasn't with her that day? I want to know. Zhang Xiao looked at Mo Zhangxiang insistently. Mo Zhangxiang bit his lip, the rejection evident in his eyes. Child, come on, I'll take you back to school. Zhang Xiao. Is it okay if she wants to curse? There is no mention in the book that Bai Yueguang and the heroine are still sisters. Could it be that this unexpected plot is because of her survival, so the plot begins to go wrong? Xiao Xiao, when the time comes, my sister will tell you everything. Don't be angry, and don't lose your temper with the president. The president loves you very much. When Mo Zhangxiang said the last part, Zhang Xiao could see from inside. I can smell envy. Zhang Xiao looked at Mo Zhangxiang's side face, her delicate brows furrowed tightly. She felt something was wrong. As the heroine in the book, how can she have feelings for the male protagonist? What is her current situation? She still persuades herself to follow the boss. This is completely inconsistent with the plot in the book and makes her confused. Could it be that she is wearing a fake book? Zhang Xiao was puzzled, although he was happy when he heard her tell the boss not to lose his temper. It's impossible for Uncle Wu and me to talk, Zhang Xiao replied. No, you must be together. Mo Zhangxiang suddenly became excited. Zhang Ziaxi grabbed the seat belt fiercely, with his heart in his throat, and comforted Mo Zhangxiang. Secretary Mo, don't get excited, just drive well. Mo Zhangxiang then focused his attention on the car, but his words were still a little emotional. Child, listen to me, Fu Chenexai really loves you, really, so you have to live a good life, okay? It's my sister's request. Is you? Zhang Xiao looked at Mo Zhangxiang with sharp eyes. Secretary Mo, do you know something? Mo Zhangxiang also realized that he had said the wrong thing, pursed his lips, his curled eyelashes trembled slightly, and replied in a very far-fetched way, of course I know that the president likes you, not only I know, Luo Yi also knows. Zhang Xiao narrowed his eyes and stared at Mo Zhangxiang. She was not Bai Yueguang, so how could she believe her nonsense, but he did not continue to question her. As soon as Mo Zhangxiang parked the car, his eyes stayed on the car in front and said, the president is in front. Zhang Xiao had already seen Fu Chenexai's car far away. Thinking that he had left her in the middle of the road, she didn't want to see him. Secretary Mo, I'll get out of the car first. Thank you for taking me back school. Xiao, can you not tell the president about what happened today? Mo Zhangxiang looked at Zhang Xiao with pleading eyes. Zhang Shi nodded, don't worry, I won't tell Uncle Wu, but I still hope you can tell me early who is going to attack me. Sometimes the enemy is in the dark, and I am in the light. If Uncle Wu is not there that day, around me, I don't have any way to deal with it. Mo Zhangxiang replied with a pale face, I know, my sister will protect you when you are young. Secretary Mo, I don't care what you know. I hope you won't interfere in my affairs. After Zhang Xiao said these words, he opened the car door and got out of the car. End of this chapter.